Good morning. Welcome to Canada's Farm Show Launchpad, sponsored by Deloitte. My name is David Beloff. I am the managing partner for Deloitte Saskatchewan, and I want to thank Real and Canada's Farm Show for allowing Deloitte for being a part of the largest farm show in the country, and in our opinion, one of the most impactful globally. I want to acknowledge those that have traveled from afar, including even our agribusiness practice that's flown in. And I want to thank Bonnie Draper, our national leader in our agribusiness practice, for making a trip to the Queen City. On that note, let's jump into why we are here. It's my great honor to introduce today's product launch by Honeybee. I'd like to welcome Perry Gride, North American Sales Manager, and Barry Lindmark, Platform Manager at Honeybee Manufacturing, to the Launchpad to present on what's next.
Primary control of critical vehicle function.
Thank you, David. You bet. All right. Good morning, everybody. Honeybee's very, very excited to be here this morning, talking about, a day of collaboration. And as I was preparing for this, it was, what kind of introduction do we go with? Do we tell a funny story today? What do we talk about? And I'm just going to start with a little bit of a introduction about just a recent life experience I went through. I had the unfortunate opportunity of some close friends of ours had a 24-year-old daughter that passed away recently, and we attended the funeral on Saturday. She had a 5-year bout with cancer, bone cancer. Out of that 5 years, she had spent 1 year total in the hospital. And this individual was an unbelievably giving young lady that all she was concerned about was, how was this affecting those around her? How did she support those around her? The support groups with others involved in cancer, how do we encourage them and uplift them? The medical staff. And so we attended the funeral, and it was a large funeral and a lot of emotion, a lot of tears there. The parents were brave enough to stand up in front of everybody and be thankful. They thanked everybody that was there that played a part in that journey. And as they went through how Ensley would have been so thankful for all of this, there was a challenge that came out of it. And the challenge that was given out to us that were there was to learn to show a little more gratitude. And I think when I looked at, the theme of collaboration, working together, that gratitude came to mind. It's easy for us to be judgmental, be upset with the way things go, but can we actually take the time to be thankful and show gratitude to those around us that have positively impacted our lives? So I guess I'll leave you with a challenge. It's one I've taken on myself, that if you do have some time today and in the next while, just take time to be thankful and show the gratitude to those around you that have positively impacted you. So, all right. Thank you. Now, many of you have likely been receiving some teaser ads about what Honeybee's up to, little things about what is NXT, with no information. We've got Spencer Groth, our marketing manager, who likes to play games with people like that, keep us all confused. So as you're unpacking, we apologize for trying to sneak up on you, but we're also appreciative that the response it got and the questions we got back. So we're looking at, what is NXT? Well, before we can talk about NXT, we need to spend a little bit of time taking a look back. And many of you will be familiar with our AirFlex family of products. There's others of you that might not, but it was basically a product family that was launched back in 2014, where we developed a product that allowed a cutter bar. A cutter bar that is very unique to the industry because it runs on an air suspension system. With an onboard air compressor, you're able to adjust from the cab how light or how heavy that cutter bar runs on the ground. So it's a true flex table that has unbelievable ability to follow ground contour and get the most crop that's on the ground. We developed a mechanical center knife drive table. So this allowed us to lighten the overall table, move the drive into the middle of it, and then the mechanical aspect gave us better cutting power. It was around that time we were developing a 50-foot, and Jim Edder's got a seed table back there, and he was nice enough to allow his soybean crop to carry over one winter and needed to harvest it in the spring. We needed a place to run this 50-foot. Jim was nice enough to let us pull it out there and run it. And we were cutting at 7 mile an hour plus with that 50-foot table. The ability to cut at the higher speeds was definitely an asset for us. It's a smooth transition, dual purpose product. So you can go from being in flex mode, running maybe 40 to 65 pounds of air in the system, depending on your conditions. Flicking on the switch, the air compressor kicks in, and you're able to pump up that rigid cutter bar to about 90 pounds and have a table that you can now use as a rigid cutting table. Very simple, very easy to use for the operator. So what were some of the key things that we found with this? There we go. We started off being very successful with the flex kiting side of things, but our rigid capabilities were somewhat limited. So we developed a concept of using airbag gauge wheels or gauge wheels on the table, which allowed us to greatly stabilize the ability of that table to cut in rigid mode, so cutting in crops like canola. With the 80-inch center opening, it was an absolutely phenomenal canola table. The cam reel, which allows for nice, even aggressive reach on the front, soft release on the back, and nice, even feeding to maximize your combine's feeding potential. The subframe air in there also helped with the side-to-side table movement and increased field performance for us. And we're working with Danny Penner and his family out in the Red River Valley area of Manitoba. And with the early stages of the product, he liked what he saw with it. He thought it was good, but they were an edible bean grower. And they said, I like your product, but we really need something that the knife is going to be the first thing that comes into contact with the ground if you want. That'll cut so low that we can get our lowest hanging pods on our edible beans. And I've had the pleasure of working with Greg and Glenn Honey to understand how their minds work. If you're like me, you come up with an idea in your brain, it sounds like it'll work, and then I can never make it work in my garage the same way that it did. But I found working with Glenn and Greg, if they have an idea, it's amazing the creativity and how they can follow through and make it work. And Glenn took Danny's challenge for that low cut and developed a system where we've got a guard that has like a boat hull design that is able to run flat and float over to get that low cut, and floats over corn debris, whatever, unbelievably, and absolutely shaves the ground. Danny Penner was absolutely delighted in what it could do, and that has led to using that low cut system across all our product. So, what is NXT in the AirFlex evolution? Well, NXT doesn't sound quite right, does it? So for us, it is what is next? What is the next thing Honeybee has challenged itself to help us move forward? And with that, we've developed our latest model of the AirFlex, which is the AirFlex NXT, and it's going to be released for 2024. We're going to talk to you a little bit about some of the key features and benefits that come with this product. One of the biggest ones that we've been working on the last several years is the skid shoe. We've got a product that cuts unbelievably on the ground. You know, we've got a biased opinion, but feedback we get is we are the preferred header for cutting low on the ground. It just works like a vacuum cleaner. It works so well. So what do these cab adjustable skid shoes do? Well, they allow you to still have the reading at the cutter bar to get that low cut height, but you also have manual stick control to raise or lower those skid shoes from 0 inches, where you're catching right on the ground, and then you can go up to as high as 8 inches just by moving your real fore and aft switch on your toggle. This allows you, if you're cutting in lodged wheat crops, going through the field, doing the up and down, you can easily adjust it. You've got your header height control that's occurring right at the cutter bar, so your ground terrain following and reaction is going to be unbelievable. And so we're so excited about what this feature can do to make the product that much more easy to use and improve the cutting performance in the field. And it's instantaneous. There's no delay in it. You're able to move forward. And we've used high strength steel in it. And you know, a little bit of history. I'm on the sales side. We always want something new. We always want to bring something new. And so when the engineering department was working on this product, we were really, really hoping that it was going to be released in 2023. And so for us on the sales side, when we found out they were going to delay it 1 year, it was like you'd been stabbed in the heart. But we took some heart pills and moved on from it. With that, we were excited that they did take the extra year, work out a few of the kinks, and we had just an awesome test season in it last year. So what is a cab adjustable skid shoe? I'll just get the guys to start this video, please. You'll see it'll move up and down. And so the cutter bar is running in full flex mode. It's floating, and then it's floating on those skid shoes. So it's just an extension of that and allows you to follow the contours of the field. Oh, crap. That's not going to work for me. We'll try this again. There we go. And so it just gives you an idea again, the ability to raise and lower it and to get the best yield out of the field. Simple and easy for the operator to use. And the neat thing about it is you're not having to tilt the table forward to get that low height. So you're able to float over soft ground debris without picking it up because you had to tilt the knife forward. We spent quite a bit of time rebalancing our cutter bar, and this concept's a little tough to explain, so I'm going to do my best on it. When we turn it over to Barry afterwards, he hopefully can explain it a little bit better. But one of the strengths we've had with our floating cutter bar is you can fine-tune that air so much that it'll absolutely float over a muddy field with standing water. So we already had the field performance, but what the engineering team's been able to do with this one is increase the overall balance of it so that it's the same amount of weight straight across the cutter bar, no matter how up or how down it is. It's just balanced. So it means that we are going to be running even lighter than we had previously in very tough cutting conditions. So it's an overall balance improvement it gives us. It's just terrible when presentations don't work the way they're supposed to. So we'll keep fighting through it here. What does that help? Basically, because we're going to be consistently lighter on the ground, that's going to enhance how long our UHMW skid shoes will last. It'll increase the life of that. We've also narrowed the end divider. So we already had a fairly narrow divider at 8 inches. We've been able to narrow that down to 5 inches now. Where this is beneficial, if you're cutting back and forth along crops like canola, it's going to greatly reduce the amount of crop pushover that'll occur, the crop loss that'll occur on the end. And so it'll be a lot smoother cut going back and forth, and overall in conjunction with the vertical shears, it's a real nice concept. So the cross auger. We've had a cross auger we've used for canola for quite a few years, mustard, field peas. Because of the large opening we have, the 80-inch opening, plus the addition of the feather plate extension, we've got a product that is very well suited to perform in these cutting conditions. And what we found is just making that auger flighting just 2 inches more. So instead of 10-inch, we've gone to 12-inch. It's just greatly improved the overall feeding of those bushy crops for us, that there's less adjustment that's needed on the cross auger, and then it turns into increased field performance for the operator. Schumacher, we work closely with Schumacher out of Germany with the quality of their cutting system. Their sections we use on our table, they've done some improvements in those. So the sections are now 12% lighter. If you look at the cutter bar, you'll notice they'll have a little slot out of them. What this has enabled them to do with that design is reduce overall vibrations, and it's also allowed them to increase the life of that section. So we've got something that's going to be a longer lasting component on our table. The vertical shears, some guys have had exposure to this, some haven't. And usually it's one of those things until you actually experience it in your field, you don't think you need. I have a truck, finally got a truck with a heated steering wheel. I never thought I needed a heated steering wheel. I thought that was for people like my wife that always had cold hands and needed that to warm up. But I got fortunate, the next truck I got here had a heated steering wheel. Now that I've used that option through one winter, it's like every vehicle I get from now on, I think I'm going to need a heated steering wheel on it. I don't know if that's a good comparison or not, but we'll go with it. The vertical shear is like a heated steering wheel. You might not see the need for it as a producer, but I can tell you from hands-on experience for the cutting we did in the Regina area out around Indian Head, the vertical shear on anybody that's doing canola, especially if it's heavy tangled canola. PAMI did some tests a few years ago. They found that the vertical shear had the least crop loss out of any options, any type of divider. So you've got something that gives you low yield loss on it, but it's unbelievable the difference it makes for how you're able to use your reel. You don't need your reel to be aggressive and keep your corners clean and not sure which way you can cut in the field. By using the vertical shears, you're able to cut that end and you can just lift your reel and feather the crop into it. We did a demo last year with a farm that was looking at needing 5 tables. And so they asked us to bring a product out for a demo in their canola crop. They really didn't want to see the vertical shears. They were telling us to leave them behind, but we managed to convince them to give them a try. We took a table out there. They compared it to their existing ones in that canola crop with the vertical shears on it. After we were done the 2-day demo with them, they ended up ordering 5 tables from us. Every single one of them they ordered with the vertical shear. So it might be something you don't think you need on your farm, but if you're doing heavy tangled canola, things like field peas, you might want to have a look at that vertical shear. The neat thing about it too is it's mechanically driven off the end of the knife, and so it's about 5 minutes to take them on or off. And we've added a mounting area on the back of the table so you can keep the vertical shears on the table, swap them out easy with the crop dividers, put those crop dividers in the holder. Our transport cart. When we developed the transport cart, a lot of the focus that went into the AirFlex table, one of the key things that Honeybee wanted with it was a lightweight product. That how do we give something that's very easy for the combine to handle? And so the decision was made to have a fully detachable transport. And that transport, you'll see, pulls from the right at the front of the table. It's on paper is a slow speed transport. I think it's 40 kilometers an hour it's rated for. I've accidentally been driving down interstate highways in the US and the brakes have gone out in my truck and been able to maintain highway speed at 0 issues with it. It just pulls right behind it and very smoothly. So what we did, one of the areas of improvement here is the rear transport sometimes can be a little more difficult to get the locking pins in place. With our new transport, we've added a single handle release for those pins. So it's going to be an easier component for any farmers to install. Our new reel drive, we're always looking for new markets. How can we develop a product that will work better in different products? We have been working closely down in Arkansas in the rice market. And one of the demands there with the heavy rice crop was they needed a reel that could really handle high torque. And so what we've developed is a reel that's enabled that to do it through the drive system. And the rice market was our main focus for developing it, but it likely is going to have a good fit for anybody that's dealing with large cereal crops. Simple additions. So along with the storage area for the vertical shears and the crop dividers on the back, we've now added a toolbox storage area on the back of the table. So carrying your spare guard sections, other tools, it's built into the back end panel of the header. We have two basic models of the NXT. So one is focused for more of our Western Canada market for all crop types, whether it's rigid or flex. This has the full suspended subframe. It has a rigid header height control option on it, the gauge wheels, and the center cutter bar area is more reinforced to allow more stability for doing rigid cutting. And then we have our soybean option, which is more for the US Midwest area, for guys that are basically just doing soybeans and nothing else. It's more of a true flex table, so it doesn't have the subframe suspension or the gauge wheels. What this has allowed us to do is run a lighter table with a little better clearance for things like corn, debris, stuff like that. And it doesn't have the center reinforced area because we get terrace cutting down in the US, and it just allows better contouring through that. So that looks like a pretty big header. I think that one, it's got to be at least 45. Jim, I think that might even be close to the 50 foot that we used. It might even be bigger than that. So what is it? We're inducing we are releasing a 60-foot flex table for our marketplace. So this is the true flex table, same family, and the ability for anybody that's doing controlled traffic farming that really needs that matching, this is the fit that they've been asking for with it. It's a big piece of equipment, and so we really, if somebody is looking at this, we really want to have the discussion with you to make sure it is the right product for what you're looking for. Because it's 60 feet, there's going to be a third-party transport required for it. There's also going to be special restrictions on shipping and added cost because it's going to need a pilot truck anytime it leaves Honeybee. So we're very excited about being able to offer this. And for those that it has a fit for, we'd be very excited to work with you on that. So why next? There's 4 key things that we look at with it. Time. We know how valuable time is to the producer, so we're continuing to look at ways to make a product easier to use through that saving time. How do we minimize the time you have to get it in and out of the cab? The cab adjustable skid shoes mean you don't have to manually adjust anything on the table. You can do it right from the cab. Precision. So again, by being able to cut in flex mode off the ground and have that header height control reading right at the cutter bar, we're able to increase the amount of yields that people are going to get from the product. And that is matched with the ability to shave the ground and get basically every seed out of it. Reliability, just the component increase in reliability that we've been focusing on the last year, is we want a product that is built to last. If you compare ours to other products on the market, you'll find it's very different. But once you understand the operating concept of it, it's a very simple product. It's very easy for a farmer to understand. And then with the settings on it, once you get your header height control, it's resume to cut. It's like running a vacuum cleaner over the field. So we're very excited about the ease of use on it. And so that is the overall presentation for the AirFlex NXT, our next generation product. Now, what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to turn the floor over to Barry Lindmark. Barry is our project manager for the AirFlex family, and so this is a product he's worked with very closely over the last few years. So Barry, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thanks a lot, Perry. And as Perry mentioned, we're very excited about our new product for the AirFlex, the NXT, the next generation of our AirFlex platform. As Perry's mentioned, I'm the engineering platform manager for the AirFlex. I've been with Honeybee for roughly 13 years now and been on this product for around 7 years. I've worked very closely with our owners, Glenn and Greg Honey, and a lot of my colleagues, sales, service, and marketing, to come up with what you see here. So Perry's already went through a lot of the details, and I'm going to show you a few of the highlights from where I can here of our NXT. So first, going into it, as Perry mentioned, the foundation of our flexible cutter bar is our TrueFlex cutter bar with our 9 inches of flex. As you can see here, moving it up and down, we have this cutter bar is very light and can follow the ground contour very well. Since the inception of the AirFlex, this has been an amazing part of our header. It has followed the ground contours very lightly, as Perry mentioned, through muddy conditions, hilly conditions, even over water. There's many instances we've got videos online and through our portals of cutting through standing water, which our competitors just couldn't do. So we're very happy with that. And the improvements we've made to it, which I can't really show you very well here, but we have redesigned our airbag system. We use air on our header compared to anybody else out there that uses hydraulic springs and other assortments of systems to help create their cutter bar flex, but we use air. We use air for mostly 2 things. Responsiveness. So with air systems, you have a very responsive cutter bar. We can also adjust it on the fly from the cab of the combine. We can adjust that air pressure, as Perry's mentioning. We can reduce the air pressure to be able to hug the ground contours very well, and we can also increase it to make it more floating. So what we've done the last 2 or 3 years within our development and testing of the NXT is come up with a new airbag configuration that allows for a very uniform and balanced cutter bar on the ground. So no matter where you're at in the field, no matter if you are flexed down into a ditch or a contour or you're pushed up, that cutter bar is always going to see the same ground pressure on the ground throughout the whole thing. So it's a little hard to show you at this time, but if you come over to our booth later on or come around after, I can show you a little bit of the highlights of how we've changed that orientation of our airbags to have that more balanced approach. So with our flexible cutter bar, we've always had amazing ground following abilities. So taking that to the next level and bringing that off the ground to be able to cut those crops that are off the ground, cereals, canola, any basically standing crop that you don't need to cut on the ground. As Perry already mentioned, we have added our cab adjustable skid shoes. There is roughly 6 to 8, upwards on the bigger header, like the 60-foot 10 of these skid shoes along the cutter bar, and they are adjusted hydraulically using your real fore and aft function in your combine off your joystick, and they can be sucked up all the way up. As you can see, a few of them are all the way up right now. We don't have any hydraulics on it right now, just to show you guys what we're looking at, so that you can cut on the ground. Then you can go and adjust it down to roughly 8 inches, sometimes 9, 10, depending on your tilt on your combine, to be able to adjust on the fly very quickly your cut height. So for example, testing last year in some hilly conditions out in Alberta, central Alberta, we had very good wheat crops with the testing partner we worked with. So in those low areas, you'd have lodge crop. In the tops of the hills, you have standing shorter crop. So you're always trying to get all the crop in the bin as a farmer. So we needed to give them the ability to flex the cutter bar along the whole ground, but also be able to change that cut height very easily on the fly. So that is where these skid shoes come in. Very simply, from your joystick, you just adjust your reel fore and aft, and you can adjust that cut height on the fly. Perry didn't mention, but we also have a very simple indicator for showing your cut height on the back side of the header, which we can show you later at another time. That gives you a 0 to 8 increment. We've also built in relief systems into the hydraulics of this option, so that if you do come into an instance where you're running through a ditch or you hit a big rock, these skid shoes can pop up so that they don't, so it reduces the wear and tear on them as well. Perry already mentioned, but we have worked with our steel suppliers and our companies to work with a very high strength steel. It's more steel that's used in the mining industry and in dump trucks, so it's very abrasion resistant. It's extremely strong. We have a hard time even bending it at our facility. That's how strong it is. So it's built to last and very robust. So we're super excited about that option, and makes it very easy for the farmer to get all the crop in the bin. Next thing I'll show you guys about here is our end shield. In the past, we were, as we mentioned, around very narrow. We were already 8 inches of overall profile from the uncut crop on this side to the cut crop on that side. We have now narrowed it down to 5 inches width, which is very narrow looking at the industry of competitors out there. In doing that, you reduce crop trampling, you get more crop in the bin, less of a chance of running into your grain cart when you're running through the field. So it's very low profile look to it. We have also incorporated our own end skid ski into here that stays on in all crop conditions, no matter what crop you're in. In previous years, we also had an end skid ski, but it was more suited for soybeans with wider row crop situation. So we've built this end skid ski to help you float through those ditches and those low-lying areas. So we're super excited about that, and through our testing in soybeans and all crops, it's worked very well for us to help float that cutter bar throughout the field. As you also see here, before I move on, we have our vertical shear. We don't have the crop dividers on this one right now, but as you can see here, we've come up with a very simple, robust, easy to use vertical shear. Built-in handle, we have quick release systems on this. So there's a mic here. Oh, there we go. If you want to take it off and store it, we have storage points on the back of the header, and they're very easily quick released with the crop divider and a very low profile. As Perry already mentioned, there is a mechanical drive off your knife. We have no hydraulics, no electrical, nothing else that adds more complexity to our header. We want to keep it simple and robust and can work in all conditions. So it's very easy to take on and off, and works very well in those bushy crops like peas, canola, mustard, to help bring the material in and have a very good separation point. Moving on to our next point, which I can show you, is our cutting system. As Perry already mentioned, we have worked very closely with our supplier, Schumacher. We've been working with them for years, and they have come out with a new sickle section, which is just as strong and as sharp as our current ones, but is a lot lighter. It reduces our overall weight in our cutting system by roughly 12%, which, as we mentioned, will reduce vibration, reduce loads, reduce oscillating loads, and forces. So we're super excited about that, about the reliability and durability we're getting out of that sickle section, and we're really happy to introduce that for 2024. Going on, we'll come over to the center here, if you can follow me. We have new reel drive. This new reel drive makes it a lot easier to switch between a standard and high torque option. It's simply for those higher load crops like rice and lodge cereals, and a lot of crops we see over in Europe, which are extremely high yield and high crop material. We just simply add another motor on and plumbing to be able to double our torque to be able to help portray that crop conditions in. Yeah, so that will be a standard feature for 2024 and very easy to switch between standard and high torque option. It's a little harder to see, but this is our transport system. This is a rear cart. We have a front dolly on the front side, but a little harder to show you, but we have a very simple way of unhooking our cart now, so it's just a lot more user-friendly for the customer and the farmer to use. And the last thing, I guess, I can show you here, there's a few more things in the background here, but we can see that in the booth if you guys come after, or come up after, is our cross auger. We went and increased the size from roughly 12 inches from our 10-inch before. We have done a lot of testing with it in both peas, canola, and mustard, and it just makes it so much easier to use. There's nothing more frustrating than you get into a pea crop that's extremely hard to bring in and you're fighting with it, and then these vertical shears plus the cross auger just make that so much easier and reduce the overall stress on the operators. So we're very happy to introduce that. Yeah, that would be the majority of our high points I can show you at this point. But we're super happy to release and super excited to release the NXT for 2024. Please come and see us in our booth if you want to see more of it. We're going to be here all week. And yeah, I thank you for coming out this morning.